Elio, the Junior Novelization. Chapter 11. The ambassadors watched as Elio's ship haphazardly twirled and whirled its way toward Lord Grygon's armada. "What a heroic figure he cuts," said Helix, impressed. Elio's little ship paused, floating before the fleet of intimidating ships. Elio quietly collected his confidence, and thwomp! A beam of light picked up the little ship and brought it right into Grygon's battleship. Elio immediately felt hot inside Grygon's ship. Even with the communidisc on his chest helping him adapt to the boiling temperatures, the heat felt unbearable. Dripping with sweat, he stepped out of his ship as Hylergian soldiers swarmed the door. "Hi," said Elio, trying to keep himself calm. "Take me to your leader." The soldiers marched away, their heavy feet thundering on the floor as they led Elio to the beginning of a long hallway. The space was lined with large skulls of different species of aliens. Elio walked down the hallway alone. He tried to contain his fear, whispering encouraging words to himself. "Okay, look him in the eye. Stand your ground. You're the Alpha. You're the killer. You're..." Elio reached Grygon's parlor at the end of the hallway. High ceilings and towering windows looked out at the vast space beyond. The room was empty until something suddenly rose from the floor. Horns blared a dark tune as flames appeared, shooting out the sides of a large pedestal. Once it had completely risen, the pedestal opened dramatically, revealing Lord Grygon. He stepped out, making his big entrance. Elio gulped. Grygon was absolutely enormous, towering over him. With his threatening armor, 4 angry-looking eyes, and grimacing face, the warlord was even more terrifying up close. Grygon looked Elio up and down, unimpressed. "This is who the Communiverse sends?" he said. "You are more puny than I expected." Elio, trying not to let Grygon intimidate him, quickly replied, "I could say the same about you. So, what do you need to leave the Communiverse alone?" Grygon's arm transformed into a giant laser gun. "Hylergians prefer to negotiate with screams in the air," he growled. Then he turned to a large balcony connected to his parlor. Outside, a soldier brought over a heavy basket, and Grygon ordered, "Pull!" The soldier tossed up a colorful little bird-like alien. It flapped into the air. Grygon took aim and fired his weapon, sending a big blast directly toward it. Elio was horrified as the little creature exploded in a puff of color. Grygon calmly removed his laser arm and handed it to one of the soldiers. "Recoil's a little heavy," he said. Then he turned to Elio. "Your turn." Grygon began to sit, as several soldiers hurried over and arranged themselves into the shape of his throne, just in time to catch him as he sat. A few other soldiers crouched beside him, creating a small table and an ottoman. Elio stammered, "Oh, darn, I left my arm cannon at home. Why don't we..." He suddenly heard a clanging noise as something mechanical rose from the floor. It was a table of weapons. "Use one of mine," offered Grygon. "So nice of you," Elio said, chuckling awkwardly. He fumbled as he chose the smallest weapon on the table, which looked like a tiny laser gun. Elio gasped as he lifted it, surprised to feel its heavy weight. He tried to appear like he knew what he was doing, continuing to talk to Grygon. We're both leaders, and..." Grygon shouted, "Pull!" And the other soldier tossed up another bird-like alien. Elio struggled as he held up the weapon, pointing it as far from the bird as possible before firing. "Surely we could find something to everyone's mutual..." A small missile emerged from his weapon. The missile went wide, but then veered around and hit the target anyway. "Ah!" Elio yelped. Grygon nodded as he rose to take his turn. "Trick shot," he said approvingly. "Perhaps we are able to communicate." He held up his weapon and shouted, "Pull!" A group of bird aliens flapped up as Gragon continued. "But those communiverse weaklings look at me like I'm some kind of monster. How dare they reject me?" He angrily blasted the bird aliens. Elio peered down at the notes on his arm and read the tip about relating to your opponent. "Well, if they don't want you, why not find someone who does?" he asked, trying to make his voice sound as commanding as possible. "Come again?" said Gragon. "There's got to be a place out there that would love to have a strong guy like you," said Elio. "But is the communiverse not where the greatest leaders gather?" asked Gragon. "Am I not great?" "Totally," said Elio, his confidence growing as he sensed that he was making progress. "But why waste your life trying to connect with people who don't get you? It's time to move on." Gragon nodded, appearing to mull over Elio's words. Suddenly, a guard named Worko appeared, hovering meekly in the doorway. Gragon sighed with irritation. "What, Worko? What is it?" Worko nervously stammered, Your Wrath, the princeling wants to see you." "Oh, for the hate of... Tell him I'm busy," snapped Gragon. The guard scurried away. Elio tried to get the conversation back on track. "So, as we were saying, forget the communiverse." Gragon sighed. "You are a father, right?" Seeing the expression on Gragon's face, he quickly replied, "Oh, yeah. It is so difficult," said Gragon with a sigh. "He has no concept of the importance of my work." Elio nodded eagerly. "I get it," said Elio. "If he's too hard to handle, then just ship him off. That's what I did with mine. So what about the communiverse?" Gragon frowned and turned angrily to Elio. "Too hard to handle?" he said, his tone shifting. Elio could feel his piercing glare and noticed that even the guard, still in their furniture formation, reacted with a tremble. Elio glanced back at his notes for help, but he couldn't read them fast enough. Said Elio, his mind scrambling to figure out how to redirect the conversation. Gragon rose from his makeshift throne and marched toward Elio menacingly. "Oh, you think I cannot handle my own son?" No, I don't think that," said Elio. "No, really. Tell me, what am I doing wrong?" Gragon shouted. It's okay. I'm a bad parent too," said Elio. "What?" roared Gragon. "None of us knows what we're doing," said Elio. "We didn't even want this, right?" Gragon unleashed his anger at Elio. "Let me remind you who you are dealing with. I am Gragon, Blood Emperor of Hylurg, Scourge of the Crab Nebula, and a great father." He loaded one of his weapons and shouted, "Pull!" A huge flock of bird aliens was released, and Gragon hit every single one. As their feathers fell gently, Elio said nervously, "Well, why don't we take a little breather?" "The negotiation is over," thundered Gragon. Then he ordered the guards to take Elio as a prisoner. A Hylergian soldier, who was previously crouched on the floor as Gragon's ottoman, grabbed Elio. "Prisoner?" said Elio. "What?" "You will watch from a cell as I destroy your beloved communiverse." No, wait," pleaded Elio. But it was hopeless. Chapter 12. Olga was at home in her living room having a cup of tea with a friend. The two sat on the couch by a big bay window watching, impressed as other Elio expertly pruned a hedge. "He's really turned over a new leaf," said Olga. A neighbor drove by and waved, greeting other Elio as he continued to work. Other Elio smiled and waved back. "Hey, Jim," he said, "how's your back?" "Oh, you know," he answered. "I hear ya," said other Elio. The ladies focused their attention back on each other, turning away from the window. "Camp must have really helped," said Olga's friend. "I guess it did," Olga replied in disbelief. "But he was only there for 1 day." "Oh, I overheard the colonel raving about you." A smile lit up Olga's face. "Really? She was?" "Yeah, you've been working really hard." Olga let out a relieved laugh. "That's so good to hear. I thought I'd never get off her bad side." With their backs to the window, neither of them saw Elio accidentally chop off a finger with the trimmer. "Whoopsie," he said casually. He calmly reattached it, quickly sticking it back into place before going right back to working on the hedge. The Hylergian soldiers tossed Elio into a dark cell. The sound of the heavy door slamming echoed across the vacant space. "Wait, please," begged Elio. "You made a mistake. I'm the leader of Earth." When the guards disappeared, Elio sadly looked around. The skeleton of an alien was perched on a small bench. He sighed and sat down beside it, leaning on its shoulder. The skeleton collapsed, its skull falling off with a hollow clatter. Elio stood on the bench, up on his tippy toes to peer out a tiny window. He could see the communiverse sparkling in all its fantastic glory, completely out of reach. He sank hard to the floor, feeling hopeless. Frustrated, he picked up the skull and threw it. It bounced off the ceiling and hit a heater grate, causing the grate to creak open. Seeing a potential escape, Elio brightened and sat up. Gravity, off," he said. The communidisc on his chest glowed and beeped in recognition. His clothes billowed as he floated toward the ceiling. Moving his arms as if swimming, he inched closer to the grate. Once he reached it, he grabbed onto the opening and said, "Okay, that's enough. Gravity back." His body instantly felt the pull of gravity and began to drop. But he grabbed at the edges of the vent and hung on, his legs dangling. Using all his strength, he pulled himself up and through the grate, crawling into a narrow vent. It was a tight fit and extremely hot, but Elio continued moving through it while brainstorming how he could approach Grigon. "What haven't I tried?" he said quietly to himself. He glanced down at his sweaty hand and attempted to read the smeared notes. Everything was blurry except bargaining chip. "Bargaining chip," he said. "Like something valuable. Where am I going to find that?" The floor of the vent suddenly broke away, and Elio plummeted down into a dark chamber, landing in a sticky web. Dangling like a helpless bug, the more he tried to wriggle free, the tighter the web seemed to wrap around him. A round, toothy worm creature appeared, hanging from webbing attached to the ceiling. It was upside down, peering at Elio, inches from his face. Elio gasped at the terrifying creature. It looked like a large, pudgy worm or caterpillar with many nubs all along its body. A very sharp row of teeth sat along the bottom of its mouth, and it had a spiky tail. "Hi there," said Elio, trying to greet it in a friendly way. The creature opened its mouth, revealing more mouths, one after another, a dozen mouths open, each lined with horrifyingly sharp teeth. The creature wheezed and snorted as it shot sticky webbing from its tail, binding Elio from his toes up to his neck. "I'm too young to die," shouted Elio. "I'm too young to die. I'm too young to die." As the creature continued to wrap Elio's torso, his communidisc split in two. The newly formed second disc stuck to the creature's chest, and the wheezy sounds were translated into a language Elio could understand. "What's happening? What's happening?" said the creature. "Whoa, translator disc. Cool." "Are you gonna eat me?" asked Elio, horrified. "What? Ew," said the creature, recoiling. "I was just swaddling you because you seem scared. That's what my mom does to me when I get scared." He paused a moment before adding, "I'm rarely unswaddled." "You're just a little kid," said Elio, shocked. "So?" he said, sounding defensive. "Don't have to be rude about it." Offended, he shot a string of webbing toward the ceiling and swung back up into the shadows. "Oh no! Hey, come back!" called Elio, still trapped. "I wasn't making fun of you." Elio introduced himself and added, "What's your name?" The creature repelled back down, stopping inches from Elio's face. "You really want to know my name?" "Well, I really want to get down." "I'm Glorden," the creature said cheerfully. "No one's ever asked me my name before." Glorden unwrapped Elio as he rambled. "I mean, I ask a lot of questions all the time. No one ever asks me questions about me, though. Like what my favorite color is. It's purple, if you're asking. Are you asking?" Elio wasn't paying attention. When he was finally free, Elio took off in search of an exit. But he stopped when he ran right into a huge Hylergian soldier. Elio cowered in fear. "What's wrong with you?" asked Glorden, noticing Elio's terrified look. That's just my carapace. I'll show you. Gordon rushed over and opened his mouth, attaching it to a metal contraption. Then he turned it like a gear, causing a grinding metal sound. What Elio had thought was a soldier opened up like a box. "Ta-da!" said Gordon, revealing the carapace with flair. Elio's jaw dropped as he realized it was a giant mechanical suit of armor. "Every Hylergian gets one when they come of age," explained Gordon. "It's got weapons and bombs and stuff, and a cup holder. It's bespoke." "So, if Hylergians took off their armor, they'd look like you?" asked Elio. "Yeah, but nobody would ever do that," said Gordon. "To expose your soft worm flesh would dishonor you and your whole family for all eternity." Gordon looked back up at the carapace. "I can't wait to get installed. I'm going to look so hot." The sound of a blaring alarm surprised them both. A voice boomed through a speaker. "Alert! A prisoner has escaped! A prisoner has escaped!" Elio gasped. "Are they talking about you?" asked Gordon. Elio ran to the door. It's complicated. It's a complicated political situation. You wouldn't understand." He could hear the heavy sounds of footsteps coming down the hall. He glanced under the door and saw the soldiers' shadows. Elio fearfully backed away from the door. A very curious Gordon popped up behind Elio, blurting out questions. "Are you a treacherous dissident? Are you an assassin?" The guards' loud voices sounded urgent. "Spread out!" one of them commanded. "Check every chamber!" As Elio scrambled to figure out his next move, Gordon continued to hit him with questions. "What'd you do? Come on. I'm really good at keeping secrets." Elio knew he didn't have much time, so he had no choice but to confess. "The secret is, I'm a kid," he said. "What? Really?" said Gordon, shocked. "And I pretended to be the leader of Earth so the Communiverse will accept me, but I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just a stupid, useless kid." Elio inhaled deeply and added, "And then I totally messed up by offending Grygon, Blood Emperor, of whatever." Gordon listened intently. "Whoa, what? Oh, no way. You're crazy." Elio took another breath. "I know. And now Grygon's gonna blow everyone up unless they can find a bargaining chip, something he values. But what does he even value?" Gordon thought about it and then said, "Well, Dad values blood, glory, the misery of his enemies." "Oh, there was this one time." Elio's eyes went wide. "Hold up! Grygon's your dad?" "I thought you knew," said Gordon. "I look just like him." "Check it out." Gordon flexed his muscles and showed off, adding, "I've been working on my back." Elio looked down at the scribble on his hand to see those two words again. Bargaining chip. He looked at Gordon. "Can I ask you a big favor?" Chapter 13. Moments later, Gordon led Elio through a hot, narrow tunnel in the ceiling. Sweat poured down Elio's face, and his breathing was heavy as he followed Gordon, crawling on his hands and knees. Gordon seemed thrilled to be on an adventure. "Bargaining chip," he said excitedly. "Cool. I've never been a bargaining chip before. I've been a liability, a disappointment, a deduction." Yeah, said Elio. "Are we almost to my ship?" "Not far now," said Gordon. "I've also been a pillow, an enigma, a problem, a headache." He suddenly stopped, unable to fit through an extra tight passage. "Oops! Little help, please." Elio groaned as he tried to push Gordon's body through. "Lately, I've just been ignored," continued Gordon. "But now my dad is going to finally pay attention to me." He paused for a moment before adding, "Do your parents pay attention to you?" Elio strained as he pushed, using all his weight, but Gordon's body wouldn't budge. "Well, my Aunt Olga doesn't care. With me out of the way, she can do what she really wants, like be an astronaut or whatever." Exhausted, Elio stopped to take a break. "She gave up on being an astronaut or whatever for you?" asked Gordon. "Wow, she must really love you." Elio resumed his efforts. He used every bit of his strength to try to force Gordon's thick body through the tight space. No, she doesn't," said Elio, "but now I'm free to join the Communiverse, which is where I belong anyway. And that's where you come in. Bargaining chip." One final shove, and Gordon made it through the tight squeeze. "Whee!" he said happily. But then he got stuck in another hole in the tunnel floor below. "Ow!" Elio's communidisc lit up. As Helix's voice came through its speaker, He sounded quite anxious. "Candidate Solis, sorry to bother you." In the Communiverse, the other ambassadors anxiously surrounded Helix. Outside their window, they saw something alarming. "It's just that the Hylergian ships seem to be pointing their cannons at us. Is this part of the negotiations?" asked Helix. "Oh, that's just a drill," replied Elio. "Don't worry." Elio hit the communidisc to cut Helix off and started urgently stomping against Glorden's body. When he finally propelled him through the hole, the two sped up, rushing ahead. "What are these tunnels for, anyway?" asked Elio, exhausted. "Oh, these are the lava flumes," replied Glorden. "They power the cannons." Elio gasped. He looked behind and saw the glow of hot lava coming toward them. "Glorden, I'm not fireproof." "Really?" asked Glorden. "Why didn't you say something?" "Glorden!" shouted Elio. The light was getting brighter and the temperature was rising fast. "It's okay, just get in my mouth," said Glorden, opening his toothy, wide mouth. "What?" said Elio. "No way!" "Trust me," said Glorden. Elio hesitated, but when he saw the wave of lava getting closer, he had no other option. He squeezed his eyes shut and back into Glorden's mouth. Just as the lava approached, Glorden closed his mouth. "Huh, it's actually kind of comfy in here," said Elio, safe and sound. "It is?" asked Glorden. "I've never been in there. Hold on." The wave of lava carried them off, washing them above a large, rocky, open space. "Yeah!" cheered Glorden, enjoying the ride. He shot out a line of webbing and dangled above the rocky abyss. Then he shook off the last of the lava. "Ah, refreshing." He opened his mouth, and Elio popped out, still being held by Glorden. Elio smiled when he saw his little red spaceship sitting on a huge mound of garbage. "Yes," he cheered. "Lower me down." Glorden shot out a thread of webbing and used it to gently get them to the ground. "Thanks, Glorden," said Elio. It's nothing." Glorden held up a nub for a high five. "Up top?" Elio raised his hand, gave Glorden a high five, and smiled. It felt great to share a moment like that with someone. "How long's the flight? Any snacks on board?" asked Glorden, bouncing toward Elio's spaceship. The ambassadors stared nervously at Grygon's cannons. When they saw Elio's ship approaching, they all felt relieved. "Ah, it's Candidate Solis," said Helix. "I'm sure he's bringing good news." But as the ship rocketed toward them, they became worried. "Oh," said Helix. It showed no signs of slowing, and all the ambassadors scattered, rushing for their lives. "Look out!" yelled Alva. "Incoming projectile!" shouted Nos. "We're all going to die!" shouted Helix. The ships crash-landed with a deafening boom. In a panic, the ambassadors screamed until finally the little ship rolled to a stop. "I'm so excited! I'm so excited! I'm so excited!" chanted Glorden. The door flung open, and he and Elio tumbled out. "Candidate Solis," said Helix, confused. "What's happened?" asked Questa. Elio called for O and said, "Open a line to Lord Grygon." O zipped over. "Of course." Helix looked at Glorden and then to Elio. "Who is this?" Elio grabbed a straw from Helix's cup of glorp as Grygon appeared on O's projection. They could see him yelling at his guards. "Where is the prisoner?" Grygon shouted. "Who is responsible for the—" He stopped as he turned to see Elio. "You!" he said, shocked. "Yes, it's me," Elio said boldly. "The leader of Earth, and the negotiation is not over. Because now I've got this." He held the glorp straw to Glorden's neck and made sure Grygon could see. All the ambassadors gasped. "Glorden!" shouted Grygon. "Yes, and pretty soon he's going to be Glor-done," said Elio. "Hi, Dad," Glorden said cheerfully. "I'm a bargaining chip." "No, say the other thing," whispered Elio. "Oh," whispered Glorden. He nodded, then shifted his voice dramatically. "Help me, Father! He overpowered me. He's too strong, too shredded." "Quiet, you," said Elio, pretending to be a tough guard. He tickled Glorden, causing him to laugh. "Ha ha 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 ha." Grygon shook his head and said, "What is that unholy sound? Stop! Stop!" "Only if you swear," started Elio. On your Hylergian honor, whispered Glorden, reminding Elio of what to say. Oh, on your Hylergian honor to leave the communiverse in peace and never return. Grygon was furious. My Hylergian honor? Do you know what you're asking? I will never. Elio tickled Glorden again, this time making him laugh even harder. Ay! Shouted Grygon. Gah! Stop! I concede. He paused before adding, I swear on my honor. No one expected Grygon to say those words. Whoa, said Glorden. Elio lowered the glorp straw, and Grygon said, You are full of surprises. You have my vow. Elio and Glorden secretly exchanged a smile. Grygon continued, I will come to collect my son, but if even one hair on a single nub is harmed, you will feel my wrath. The screen went dark as Grygon ended the conversation. The ambassadors cheered. Well done, said Helix. I knew you had it in you. Firm, bold, good. Impressive, said Tegman. Well done, said Ava. You actually did it, said Mira. I can't believe it. Thank you, said Elio. What a masterful negotiation, said Therese. I was on the edge of my fins. Helix stepped up, interrupting the celebration, and patted Elio on the back. Oh, I can't wait for all this to be over and officially welcome you into the fold. I'm customizing your membership badge right now, said Nos. Do you like the color? A sparkling green badge floated before Elio. It's beautiful, he said with a gasp. And well-deserved, said Questa. But first, let's prepare for Lord Grygon's arrival. Come on, everyone. The group began walking away, expecting Elio to join. But he paused and glanced over at Glorden, who was looking up at the Hylergian ship in the sky. Elio told the ambassadors to go ahead without him. I'll take care of the bargaining chip. The ambassadors walked off, continuing to discuss preparations as Elio approached Glorden. We did it! Yeah, you were so cool, said Glorden with a shiver. Hey, you okay? Asked Elio. I've never been outside before, said Glorden. It's cold here. Elio adjusted Glorden's communidisc, and he was happy to feel the temperature adjust. Ah, wow, this thing's amazing. Watch this, said Elio. Gravity off. Glorden chuckled as he watched Elio float. Whoa! Then he tried it. Gravity off, he said, floating up to join Elio. The two laughed as they enjoyed feeling weightless together. You think this is cool? Come on, said Elio, eager to show Glorden the communiverse. Grygon paced inside his ship, deep in thought. Worko approached, announcing that the shuttle was ready. Shall we depart? He asked. No, said Grygon, not yet. The princeling was taken because he was vulnerable, exposed, soft. He turned to Worko and ordered, prepare his carapace. But that will take time, your bloodness. Do it, shouted Grygon. We will perform Glorden's ceremony on the communiverse, and they will quiver at the full might of the Hylurg. Chapter 14. Elio and Glorden stood on a high platform looking at the swirling water below. Elio held one of Glorden's nubs in his hand. Ready? Asked Elio. Yes, said Glorden nervously. No. Okay, yes. On 3, said Elio. Then they began to count together. 1, 2, 2.5, 3. They jumped in, screaming as they fell into the swirling whirlpool, enjoying the ride. When they emerged laughing, Glorden asked, Again? Heck yeah, again, said Elio. The two had a blast, exploring the wonders of the communiverse together. They slurped up glasses of glorp, ate treats, and invented their very own secret handshake. Later on, they sat side by side on a bridge overlooking the communiverse, tossing rocks into a river. They were tired but happy after having so much fun together. Shmipa, skittle-pulpe, said Glorden. Elio laughed. No, skittle-papa, he said, correcting Glorden's Elioese. Elio skipped a rock across the surface of the river. Noise, said Glorden. Shmeepa, skeeto, pop, 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 puh. Then he tried to skip a rock, but his rock immediately sank, and they laughed. Glorden looked over at his friend. So everyone speaks Elioese on Earth? Nah, said Elio, just me. And my parents, or at least they did. My aunt's not into it, but I keep using it so I don't forget. Did something happen to your parents? Asked Glorden. Elio hesitated before answering. Yeah. I'm sorry, said Glorden. Elio looked over at Glorden, touched by his sincerity and kindness. I know it's not the same, said Glorden, but my mom's gone a lot, fighting the blood wars. I miss her a ton. Sometimes it feels like Dad doesn't even want me. I know what you mean, said Elio. He gazed down into the rippling water. The only people who wanted me are gone. But I don't know. What if there's nothing about me to want? Elio lowered his voice. I thought Earth was the problem. But what if it's me? Glorden reached out a nub. Well, I like you, and you seem fine to me. Elio smiled. A shadow suddenly fell over them, and they both looked up to see Gragon's ships. Their moods sank a little. It would soon be time for them to say goodbye. As the ships landed and opened, they saw something unexpected. Oh, he brought your carapace, said Elio. I guess so, said Glorden. But that's good, right? Asked Elio. He could tell by the look on Glorden's face that maybe it was not so good. Yeah, I mean, it has a flamethrower, a circular saw, an acid gun. I'll get to fight and conquer and kill, and Glorden's voice quavered and trailed off. Elio looked at him concerned. Glorden, do you not want to get into your carapace? Glorden's head drooped. Yeah, I mean, kinda. Well, no. I've been pretending to want it, but I've been living a lie. He burst into tears. Once I'm installed, I'll never get to play or swim or do anything. It'll be the worst. But why didn't you say something? Asked Elio. Because all Hylergians have to do it. It's tradition. And if I don't, my dad would hate me. Elio looked down to see Gragon descending from the ramp as the ambassadors gathered to greet him. Behind Gragon were the carapace and the guards. Glorden, you're not getting in there, Elio said firmly. But I don't have a choice, he said with a sniffle. Glorden tossed another rock into the river. We'll figure it out, Elio promised. I don't know how, but seeing their reflections in the water gave Elio an idea. Oh, wait! What? Said Glorden. Elio rushed off, and Glorden followed him down a hallway until they stopped in front of the cloning clay tank. What are we doing? Asked Glorden. We're going to give your dad what he wants, said Elio. Me? Asked Glorden, confused. Well, yes, but also no. Elio was armed with an idea, and he was super excited to help his friend. Glorden looked into the tank and realized what they were looking at. Cloning clay, he said. Are you sure about this? Yeah, why not? Said Elio. I don't know, said Glorden, worried. Would a clone really fool my dad? He's pretty smart. He nervously rubbed his nubs together. Oh, it's gonna work, Elio said confidently. I'll show you. Then he called for O and asked, Can I check on my clone? Certainly, said O. She instantly displayed footage of Olga and other Elio working together in the kitchen, cooking side by side, talking and laughing. They appeared to be having a great time together. That smells good, Papito, said Olga. It's my secret recipe, said other Elio. You're gonna love it. Ooh, and how are you so good at everything? Olga said, giving him a little squeeze. Elio's jaw dropped. He couldn't believe how it seemed that other Elio was exactly the sort of kid Olga wanted. O left to help with Gragon's arrival. Well, I guess it does work, said Glorden. Okay, let's do it. Yeah, said Elio, trying to ignore his hurt feelings. Elio grabbed a blob of cloning clay and reached into Glorden's mouth to collect some DNA. Then he smashed it together and tossed it into the incubator, just like he had seen O do. Okay, your dad will take your clone back to Hylurk. I'll become an ambassador, and neither of us will have to see Hylark or stupid Earth again. It's a win-win-win. Ding! The timer went off, the door opened, and other Glorden popped out. Whoa, said Glorden, checking out his clone. Yes, said Elio. I'm Glorden, said other Glorden, greeting them. Wow, am I really that ripped? Said Glorden, impressed. Elio looked at other Glorden. You follow us, he said. You got it, said other Glorden. Moments later, they approached Elio's little red spaceship. Elio looked at both Glordens and said, You'll be safe in here. No one else can open it. All right, Glorden, get in the ship. The two Glordens said, Okay. I can't tell you apart, exclaimed Elio. They celebrated with high fives, and Elio said, Seriously, though, which one's real? Me, said Glorden. Real Glorden entered the ship. Stay inside and don't make a sound. Elio could tell that his friend was nervous, so he gave him a reassuring nod. I'll be right back. Glorden waved and closed the hatch. Elio ran ahead and called to the other Glorden. Come on. The two hurried down the hallway. You look so good. I can't even tell the difference. Olga and other Elio were having what looked like a normal family dinner, enjoying their mac and cheese. I can't even tell the difference, said Olga. Other Elio laughed. I know. Who knew yogurt is just as yummy as butter and half the cholesterol? It's perfect, said Olga, taking a bite. Other Elio finished his meal and tidied up the table. Let me get that for you, he said, picking up her empty plate. Oh, thanks so much, said Olga. Other Elio took the dishes to the kitchen and washed them as he hummed. After he finished, he walked by Olga in the living room and yawned. Well, I'm going to turn in for the night. All right, said Olga, but first, get over here, kiddo. She gave him a hug, kissing him on the head. Other Elio waved as he headed off to his bedroom. Good night. Olga smiled and waved, but once he was out of sight, her expression changed, falling into a suspicious scowl. She spit out a single hair into her hand. Olga had retrieved it from other Elio's head during their hug. She rushed down the hall. When she got into her bedroom, she locked the door behind her. The walls were covered in photos, notes, and locations. Alien textbooks and notebooks were strewn about. Olga knew something was not right, and she was on a mission to discover the truth. She had been logging and keeping track of other Elio's every move. She ran to a microscope and put the strand of hair on a slide before slipping it underneath the lens to examine it. When she turned away to scribble down a note, the hair came to life, inching off the table like a worm. She turned back, discovered the strand of hair was missing, and gasped. What the? Her eyes darted around the room until she spotted it wiggling under the bedroom door, trying to escape. She followed it as it inched down the hallway right into Elio's bedroom. It continued, climbing up onto his bed, across other Elio's sleeping face, and to his hairline. Then it reattached to his head as if it had never left. Olga watched closely as a strange ripple passed over other Elio's sleeping face. She slowly reached for his eye patch, trying not to wake him, then carefully lifted it to discover nothing was there. The place where Elio's eyeball should have been was just skin. She gasped in horror. Other Elio's single eye whipped open. He grabbed Olga's arm. Hi, he said cheerfully. We should probably talk. Okay, friends, hopefully you really enjoyed this book. If you did, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.